City Community School District is closer tonight to choosing the district's next superintendent to replace the retiring Dr. Rod Earlywine.
Tomorrow, the school board will choose between Dr. Juan Cordova and Dr. Corey Seymour. Tonight, the two finalists had the chance to speak to members of the community during a forum.
First, the public heard from Dr. Cordova, who is the Assistant Superintendent for Instruction for the Hazelwood School District in Florissant, Missouri. Dr. Cordova, who learned English as a second language, spoke about the importance of ELL programs in schools that teach English learners the language while not losing their native language. Dr. Cordova said an opportunity like the superintendent's role in Sioux City would satisfy his need to serve.
I really want to serve the community in a way that also gives them what they want for their kids. And what they want for their kids is them to be successful. In order to that, you need to build a system that starts very young and work its way up. And that working of the way up allows the students to gather the information, skills, and abilities to be successful in life, which is what any parent wants.
The second finalist is Dr. Corey Seymour. Dr. Seymour is the superintendent of the Clear Creek Amana School District in Oxford, Iowa. Among other issues, he talked about the importance of keeping fine arts programs in schools. He also talked about his past educational experience. At previous school districts, Dr. Seymour said he created initiatives that increase student achievement and improve teacher retention.
You got to make people feel that they belong, that you need them, that they're important, that they have a voice. Those things are so important to our teachers. Giving them the why of doing things and let them know how much you need them. Teachers are the foundation of any school district. And we have to make sure that they understand that and realize that. And more than anything else, give them the supports that they think they need.
Tomorrow morning at 10:30, the school board will meet to discuss the two finalists in a closed session. They will then vote on both candidates during a public meeting.